I'm back at Bunker Hill, and look it, I brought our friend William Prescott. Ever since Friday, I've been jonesing on coming back and kind of completing the story and talking to you guys more about Bunker Hill. Here we are. We're going to take a look, talk a little bit about the battle. I want to go inside the museum and check out the gift shop and see what new merch they have for the 250th. We are just over a week away from 250 years of this battle, and it's a pretty exciting time to be alive. They've got new flags flying up there. William Prescott looking fierce. See what I mean? He holds his saber in his arm as if to say, come and get me. Come and get me. But they didn't. They couldn't. They tried. Imagine this coat. He had, like I said, he looked like Edward Scissorhands has got to him. Multiple bayonet wounds, multiple shots. Couldn't be killed. Amazing. It wasn't just Prescott, as I've mentioned before. We had so many amazing people here. As we discussed, it was the last place that some people laid eyes on. Hard to imagine. And we're coming upon 250 years of that. Now, there was a lot of drama behind the building of this. It took years and years. It was halted. Funding for the organization, I think it's Friends of Bunker Hill Monument or something like that. And there was a group of ladies that held fundraisers trying to raise money for this. It got halted several times and then picked back up again. And Daniel Webster was the keynote speaker when it finally opened. But clear back going to 1825, the Marquis de Lafayette laid the cornerstone, and eventually, years later, this little beauty was finally put up. He actually wants to climb it. I told you guys before about how there's no way I can, and Noah, my brave little toaster here, did one time, and he said it was frightening, but Kay's been talking about it, so we'll check in with him and see if he's gonna. There's a great many people in here. I've never seen so many, but there is Dr. Warren inside here. This is actually a Masonic lodge, and this lodge building here houses the beautiful monument to Dr. Since the monument opened in 1843, millions of people climbed 294 steps, and Noah was saying that the main problem for me would be the hole in the middle of the monument that looks down to the ground. With my vertigo, there's just no way, but a lot of brave people behind me waiting in line to do it, so good for them. Well, there's a big line, so Kay's not going to do it today. So sad. That's his excuse anyways. I think maybe he chickened out. Guys, if you look, you see how we are standing here. This is Bunker Hill. And if you go down towards the water, you would eventually get to the Charlestown Navy Yard. All these areas here around us with homes encompassed more of Bunker Hill and Breed's Hill below. And when Dr. Warren fell, he was down at the very bottom of Breed's Hill near the fortifications and readouts. And it was Paul Revere that sadly found his body down there and knew it was him because of the dental work that he himself had done for Dr. Almost General Joseph Warren. And I say almost general because he was given the generalship and didn't quite accept it yet. That would have came later, but of course he passed away here after 2 hours of fighting. A lot of furious work the night before to build all those fortifications and readouts. And you know, we had so many key players here. Definitely a group effort, but this was a nasty battle. We're going to talk more about that in a second. We were going to go in here real quick and see if anything's changed in what they're offering. The museum closed Mondays and Tuesdays and only open till, is it 4 or 4:30 when they are open? So if you're going to visit, take heed. New England hours. Super new so far. Okay, I was thinking there would be like epic 250th merch, and that's 250 at the Tea Party. That shirt has been here a while. Come across this little guidebook here that's got some handy dandy pictures of some of the key players here. There's Artemis Ward, who is commander right now. George Washington doesn't make it to the Harvard Green until July 3rd. And Artemis Ward is the man in charge. He takes a lot of heat for, you know, what was seen as a failure on our part at Bunker Hill. There's our friend William Prescott, Israel Putnam, World Putt, and John Stark, who definitely reached hero status, not only here but and beyond. And as we follow the timeline, we will be hearing so much more of him. And if you guys did not watch my John Stark origin story of Live Free or Die, highly suggest. We've got Pitcairn, who absolutely horrible, Piggott, Clinton, and of course Major General William Howe. You guys making me brave again. I'm going upstairs. Kay's holding my hand and I've got you guys in the camera, so we can do this. If those guys could come, and you know, Joseph Warren, all the night before he had a terrible migraine and didn't really like feel great and still went to battle in his finery, then I can walk upstairs. All right, flag from the 1843 dedication ceremony. And you can see it's got the field of blue, this sort of English type cross there, and the New England pine tree in the corner. That is the Bunker Hill flag. We'll be seeing a lot of this. Oh no! William Prescott's nephew's sword is somewhere else. Usually it's right here. Yes, so Benjamin Prescott, his nephew, killed in the redoubt. A lot of death and destruction. The very first person, not so fun fact, to be killed at the Battle of Bunker Hill had his head blown off by a cannonball. You guys, this was an ugly, brutal, very violent, very graphic, very disturbing battle. I can't stress enough that this would have been a very traumatizing foray into war. It was severe. Talking about key players, here we go. Here is Israel Putnam, Brigadier General Israel Putnam of the Connecticut Militia, woodsman, fighter, Old Putt. Led the Patriot retreat at the end of the battle. Now remember too, again, that, you know, Charlestown was on fire. There were hundreds of men of war out in the harbor and cannonballs blazing by, fires burning, as bayonets are being used everywhere and shots are being fired. This was a disgusting, horrible, horrible place to be. William Prescott, we know him. Always fierce. Oh, remember I told you guys that he could be seen walking above the redoubt and signaling his men? A veteran and years later said, I tell ye that if it had not been for Colonel Prescott, there would have been no fight. Look at him looking fierce. That's a great description. Got a really cool mural that spans, I don't want to make you guys sick, but spans the entire space in here in the visitor center upstairs. John Stark, veteran of Rogers Rangers. If you guys watched our videos from Lake George, we talked quite a bit about them and their fame and infamy. Artemis Ward, the man at the time, farmer, politician, soldier, directed military operations. He was also a deeply religious man, had a strong faith that he leaned on, and this war was really tough on him. He does go back to tend to his farm after all of this, and really want to get to his house soon, take you guys there and make a video. They have a lot of hours, and as I've told you guys, things have been a little crazy, but we'll get there eventually. Of course, Dr. Warren. Now, he would pass away and leave behind 4 children and his fiancée, Mercy Scully. She was a wonderful, wonderful young lady. They were very much in love, had every intent to marry. They were engaged. Unfortunately, because they were not married yet, she had to fight really hard and wasn't taken seriously enough in the aftermath of his passing. That was a whole sad thing, and you just think, my gosh, you know, they had their whole lives ahead of them, dreams. After his first wife, Elizabeth, had passed away, he had met Mercy a couple years later, and they were going to build a life together. The premonition that he, told his mom just before the Battle of Bunker Hill that, he may in fact perish for this, sadly came true, and we lost one of the best of the best. We left behind 4 children. Mercy continued to raise the children, pay for their education, and make sure that their lives turned out as well as possible, considering that they lost their wonderful father. And of course, like many patriots, Joseph Warren was a Freemason. Here's some information about that. And Masonry was a really great way for these guys to get together and talk, it was more than just about the brotherhood. It was about trust and safety and the camaraderie that they shared and being able to plot and plan, not in a bad way plotting, just, again, remember that a lot of the intelligence gathered for all of this battle was because of this man right here. He really had the intel, and, it took him, it took Artemus Ward, it took Old Put, Stark, everybody together. Everybody had different talents that were used. Cannonballs from the actual battle. Different views get you different perspective. Of course, Abigail Adams and John Quincy Adams, famously over in Braintree, stood up on the hill near their home and could see the battle and were really shaken by what they saw. Everybody was shaken by this on both sides. Actually, accounts from the British and from our provincials, quite earth-shattering as far as descriptions go. We even took one of their drums, and now it sits in our museum. Ha 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 ha.
The little drummer boy lost his drum.
You were a British soldier that day and you tried to desert, you would be instantly put to death. They did not put up with desertion, and it was frightening. I mean, even before the battle, when they saw us digging and what was going on, everybody kind of freaked out to a degree. And they right away were like, Thomas Gage said, "You guys even think about running? Court-martial, instant execution." So I really like this image here. Makes it easy to imagine. This is a very realistic sort of depiction here. You can see it's a Breed's Hill redoubt down on the end there. The British and the river being so close. Wow. Paper clippings having to deal with Bunker Hill. And the monument was built with granite from Quincy, Mass. How fitting and poignant. It's a pretty iconic image here. All able-bodied, well-disposed young men. Helped General Washington. Again, quickly, here is some more information on the building of the monument. And like I said, the Freemasons did have a part to play in all of this. The King Solomon's Lodge erected the first battle-related monument in 1794 to honor Joseph Warren, a small monument built on a plot of land donated by Charlestown farmer James Russell. Sweet, handsome, lovely Frenchman who laid that cornerstone. The Marquis. I touched on this, but yeah, it was the women of New England. They formed a very heroic fundraising effort to try to get this thing done. They did at one point raise over $30,000, which at the time, definitely no small feat. Daniel Webster, he always looks so gruff, but oh, he was a good guy. Wonderful, wonderful. And he did that dedication. This was widely published and talked about. It was the talk of the year when this monument finally went up. Some examples of some of the designs they thought about using. It's a live view. See? I didn't have to climb it. I didn't have to be death-defying or freak myself out. Just come here and play with the trusty screen. That's supposed to be Salem Poor. I bet that is. That soldier right there. His name was Salem Poor. I think it's that beautiful Quincy granite. Things are gonna get crazy here come next week. I can't believe 250 years. Which really, in the grand scheme of things, is not that long. It is, but it isn't. Guys, guys, imagine Prescott, Putnam, and Gridley furiously building those readouts all through the night. Of course, everyone thought there was going to be more time until Gage got freaked out by Prescott when he saw him. And Abijah Willard said, "Rut, row," and they moved it up. On one hand, I definitely wouldn't want to be here, June 17th, 1775. On the other hand, man,
This is a cool little courtyard area.
part of me just thinks to be a fly on the wall or a bird in a nest. So beautiful. And nobody really knows how many ships exactly were in the harbor, causing all the chaos when the battle broke out. There were many ships. That and the fires and everything adding to the chaos. Not good. But again, it did show them that we were serious, that we could fight, that this wasn't going to just be a problem they could sweep under the rug. Us rabble colonists weren't going to just go away. Notice that it's like hazy out, and that when we were on the hill, forgot to mention like the smoke, it's from the fires in Canada coming down, and it's been very, very bad. The air quality's bad. There's like warnings for vulnerable groups. It should probably include me in my ongoing sinus infection. I've got that doctor's appointment tomorrow morning, so hopefully soon I don't sound like this anymore, because it is getting old. It's been weeks of this now, so I'm pretty over it. Moved on up to Danvers, Massachusetts, and you see this place behind me? This is the Israel Putnam house. Remember the other day when I was looking at William Prescott's house and I said, "Oh, you guys should see Israel Putnam's"? Well, I decided to bring it full circle. Here we are. Been some drama surrounding this house. It was owned by a historical society, and last I heard it was given back to descendants of Israel Putnam, but it needs a lot of work. It's a sad state of affairs. Here was born General Israel Putnam, January 7th, 1718. And yeah, taking a look here. Israel Putnam, born here, he did end up retiring and passing away in Connecticut. He's buried in a really incredible space in Brooklyn, Connecticut. A beautiful monument to him there. We'll have to take a look at that sometime.
It just needs to be stripped down and repainted.
I mean, but the whole thing, is it rot?
No, it just needs to be stripped down, all the lead paint, and repainted.
Yeah, it's rough.
But you're talking a lot of money to protect all the crown.
Well, that's the problem. Historic Society, they didn't, yeah, it's really too bad. Wow, look how crooked this window is. It's like not symmetrical at all.
Look at
It's a shame. I hope that they're able to, I hope they're able to do something with this, because it's important. It's a big house though.
Can I take you down in the basement?
So if there's a tornado, I can go in there. Israel Putnam, tavern keeper, farmer, kind of a funny personality. He talked his way out of many situations.
Well, here's the kitchen. And the lean-to.
Really.
Old Sears appliances near the washer and dryer over there.
There's a bad reflection, but it's like a 1950s kitchen in there. Yeah, it's not very originally colonial in there from what we can see. And it needs a ton. I mean, the roof, look how bad that is. Look at the old copper flashing. No original house, you can see 1648 up there. Yeah, it was built in 1648 by Thomas Putnam, Israel Putnam's grandfather. That same Thomas Putnam, heavily involved in nearby Salem's witch trials, you guys may have heard of. He was one of the main accusers and was a strict Puritan, had the witch hysteria going on. But his grandson Israel, a lot more level-headed. Here is the Putnam Candy Cottage, kind of on the same property and named in his honor. Yeah, not every historic site is cut from exactly the same cloth. And it's sad, but I also get it to a degree. You know, it's very expensive to keep these places going. So in the last couple weeks, I've shown you, you know, places that are in pretty bad shape, places that are in horrible shape, places that are lived in by regular folks and updated. And of course, I've taken you to places where they've become museums and are quite lovely. So it kind of runs the gambit around here of different scenarios. At some point upon the Candy Cottage, they had this weather vane type thing of Israel Putnam. There he's got an ice cream sundae. George Washington was a huge fan of ice cream and probably would have enjoyed it with him. Behind it here, in this pile of rubbish and animal traps and weeds, and I'm getting bit by mosquitoes, is another one that has Israel Putnam in front of the Bunker Hill Monument. So there you go, bringing it all together. They have any homages to Old Put inside of the Putnam Candy Cottage? I've never been in here actually. Oh wow, an old school candy shop. Very cool. Are you seeing anything revolutionary themed or anything like that? Got some lobsters. Noah pointing out that he thinks that Old Put's place looks worse than it did like in prior years, which kind of sad. But I wanted to show it to you guys, and it is where a very important figure that we've been talking about was born, so that is pretty cool, and at least it still stands. Maybe someday it will come back into its full glory. That would be really cool. But I think I'm going to leave you here. I'm that history chick, and like Patrick Henry, I know of no way of judging the future but by the past. Past tells me Bunker Hill, very, very bad in a lot of ways. Good in some ways, but very bad in a lot of ways. I don't think I'd want to be there. It was a rough go of it. We are going to be talking more about Bunker Hill in the weeks ahead. Next week is the 200th anniversary of the opening of the memorial. And then next weekend, well, Wednesday, I think, whenever the 17th is the 250th anniversary of the battle. And then that weekend, 20th, 21st in Gloucester, is the giant reenactment that we've been looking so forward to. It's going to be epic, so we will see you all there for sure. And we'll see you in between too. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, I'm also on Instagram at @that_historychick, on Facebook at @thathistorychick, and right here on my YouTube channel, That History Chick, with more exciting content from the beyond. If it's happened in the past, it's history, and I love it, and I'm here for it, and I will deliver it to you. We will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Take care. Thank you. Come again.